Welcome back to another shop tour. We've been busy here in the shop. It's winter time. We got a lot of work in here right now, and we're going to take you through it. So we have the 1948 18-foot Chris Craft utility, the U18. We have all of the planks removed, as you can see. We've cleaned up all the frames. Everything looks pretty darn good in this boat. There was some rot in the back. We replaced a couple frames back in there. One of the frame ties we replaced. So we also scarfed in the keel back here. And I usually don't do that, but where it was rotten was just right in the back here. And so what we did is we scarfed it, made the scarf joint right where the strut goes. There's also this big block right here that the strut goes through. So it's super, super strong right here. That way, when we put the strut back on and the bottom's built, we put the strut back on, it goes right through the keel here, and it also goes through the scarf and then helps that hold it together. Not that it would ever come apart even if you didn't bolt it that way, but this is just extra security and I found a great way to do it. So we have the new frames back in here. This is where some of the rot was. We've cleaned up all of the frames. They've tightened all the screws, all the bolts. We've released the keel, taken that out, put it back in and glued it in, and then also fixed a little repair on the forefoot up there. Now this boat is ready for its inner bottom. So next week what we're going to do is take a bunch of boards down. They're going to resaw them to 5/16. Then we'll plane them to 3/16, and then we'll be ready to do our diagonal inner bottom. And we'll share that with you on the next shop tour. You'll probably see some of that. So the 18-foot Riviera, this is not Boompa. This is a different one, but identical to Boompa. The other 18-foot Riviera that we have in here. We have taken all the hardware off of this boat and stripped the interior. We're going to remove the engine next week, and then we're going to flip this boat upside down and do a bottom on it. So we have 3 bottom jobs that we're doing. What we did is we purchased a whole bunk of Philippine mahogany, red Marante, and that's what we use for our bottom planking and then some of the side planking too. What we do with that wood is we split it up when we get it, and we split it up to flat sawn to more ribbon grain, and we keep those 2 piles separate, and we'll use all that flat sawn stuff for bottom jobs and frames. That way we save some of the nicer wood for like the sides if we have to do the sides on the utility. So we have the 1960 Chris Craft ski boat, 17 foot. This boat was in a little bit worse shape than we thought. We found a bunch of cracks in the frames here, and some of them right under the engine were pretty oil soaked. So what we decided to do is just replace all the frames. We've been at this for about a week with the frames, a little more. And also, we found that the keel was in 2 pieces. Now, that may have happened at the factory. I'm not positive about that. Or somebody might have been in there doing a repair. But right in this section right here, there was a scarf and a big block. So what we did, because we have the new lumber and it's in 18-foot lengths, we just milled up a new keel. We still have to cut in the rabbet, And we'll do that with a router and a jig that we'll set on these frames, and it'll cut it to the exact profile. And maybe I can film a little bit of that and then eventually do a little tutorial on that, because that really helps. We take most of the meat off of this with just your regular router on a table, but we don't take it down so much where we can't get this angle in there. So maybe I should probably do a little video on that and share that in case anybody needs to do that. They can see how it's done. But we need to bolt this keel in. Then we need to, like I said, take care of the rabbet, do a final fair on this, and then work on the chines. This boat had a bunch of epoxy in it, had a bunch of repairs in it. I don't know when it happened in its life, but that did not help with the rot in this boat, because a lot of the places where we found epoxy and people did some repairs in there, it kind of induced rot. One of the reasons, it won't let water pass through it or by it. And also it's brittle, so that means if there's any flexing, it'll crack. Then water gets in there and can't get out. And if it gets to the wood, then the wood will rot out very quickly. So epoxy is really never a good choice to replace a piece of wood that needed to be there. So we just don't do it. We do use it to bond pieces of wood together, like this keel actually is epoxied. Now you won't be able to tell, and it won't make a bit of difference, but it is laminated completely, two pieces with epoxy. There'll be no moisture getting through there. Remember, we'll have 5200 on here, and those planks will be bedded into 5200, so there's no way that moisture can get in there. If it does get in this way, it can't get to the inside of where the epoxy is to join the two pieces of wood. So okay to do it this way, not okay to do it this way, where you're trying to fix a piece of wood and all you're doing is filling it with epoxy. It's a bad choice. So we have the 1937 17-foot Chris-Craft utility. We stripped the boat down to bare wood. Zach then put in a new dash in here. And one of the reasons we did that is just because it had so many holes over the years that weren't needed. And so we're trying to get this back a little bit more to an original state. And so Zach stripped the boat completely, dug out all the seams, replaced the dash in here, and then we're going to strip the ceiling boards as well, and then stain it all at once, and then start our varnish process. But also, this boat in a storm got damaged. And so the repairs that they made were okay, but there was some stuff that could have been better. And while we're doing all this, Zach pulled the lower bottom plank on the port side and replaced that. So we're pretty much really close to staining on this boat. There's some more sanding to do, and then some final hand sanding, and then we'll be able to stain this boat and start our varnish process. So the rest of the boats in the shop, we really haven't been doing too much on. Wait for the next video to come out on this. We're going to remove the hardware and explain a little bit more of the restoration process on this and get going on the pre-war 25 Sportsman. The post-war 25 Sportsman, we screwed up. We made a mistake, and the combing boards on it were a little bit too low. So we had to go back. And sometimes you have to do that, you know. It's really not about the mistake that you made. It's about recovering from that as quick as possible. So we made the combing board a little bit too low. We then pulled that seat portions out of there, removed that combing board. We already have blanks made up, and they're pretty much ready to go back in the boat. Then we can button that thing up and get that to the final sanding. Boom pop, it's just kind of on hold right now till we get some of this other bottom stuff done. Then we'll be back on this. This boat's really close to, well, it is. I mean, the hull is done. So we just got to get that engine rebuilt and back, and then we can put the whole boat back together again. So thanks for showing up. Hope you enjoyed the shop tour. If you did, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you want, if you found value in these videos. And there's always my Patreon account. And we'll see you back here. Bye.